Thanks for joining us. I'm Marlon Bowling with you. We're watching your livestock trade along with Oliver Sloup.
Well, we saw a bit of a choppy trade there on Friday to round out the weekend, the month. So we've got a new month of trading. Looks like they tried to run some stops below Friday's lows in that live cattle contract, and are starting to find some, I guess you could say, bargain buyers. We're optimistic on live cattle. We have been optimistic for some time, but I'm really welcoming a little bit bigger of a pullback here in this April contract. We're looking for potential retracement to that breakout point from January 22nd. That comes in closer to 120. If we were to pull back to that point, I think that we would view that as a place of value. We know the cash market firmed up a little bit, but I think it was a little short of expectations. So that's going to be something to keep a close eye on too. If the cash firms up a little bit more this week, potentially we don't get that full retracement to that breakout point, and live cattle can continue to march forward, onward and upward.
You know, Oliver, last week we had the beef and pork export sales that came out, and they were pretty good. We had beef over 20,000 tons and over 50,000 tons of U.S. pork that were sold last week. Overall, is that something that you think can be continued? Because China was in there as a buyer, but not the biggest.
I think that we can see that become more of a trend, certainly going forward. We've seen it in a lot of other agricultural markets, and I think that it's that time where we're going to start to see that play out in the cattle and the lean hog complex. And that's something that we've talked about, not just on the demand side of things, but just the overall fund participation. We've seen it in literally every other commodity sector but the livestock. And I think livestock, looking out a little bit further in time, could be playing a little bit catch up and get that fund participation that keeps supporting this market going forward.
Well, let's take a look once again here at the live cattle trade. That April contract up a dime at 121.95. We have had such a run on the beef cutout values for about 3.5 weeks, and it looks like on the Friday update we had the market higher again. Choice cuts were up $1.96. Select cuts were up $1.82. How long can they keep this up without taking a break, Oliver?
It's a good question. Things can run a lot further than you would imagine. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the strength continue. The trend is your friend, and that's what we've definitely been seeing on the cutout side of things, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that continue. Might cool off a little bit here in the near term, but again, we remain pretty upbeat and optimistic, looking a little further out in time.
But what about on the pork cutout side? When you look at the pork cutout values that came out last Friday afternoon, that has been a struggle, and finally late last week they started firming up. And if you look at the Friday afternoon update, carcass values were up $1.87. They were at 85.36, and the ham and belly markets were higher, led by the hams up $7.02. So they had some big moves last week. The belly market up $1.89. From what I heard, the cash hog trade late last week had also been higher. Have they maybe made another turn to where they can support the levels they're at on the futures now?
I think that we can certainly see that be supported on the futures board. And as with the live cattle market, we're kind of looking for things to cool off a little bit. I think the optimistic news in these markets has been largely priced in. You can see that reflected on the chart. Looking back from about the middle of January towards the end there, we saw a big sharp rally, and not just the cattle complex, but also the lean hogs. And I think that was front-running a lot of positive information. So now we just need to kind of consolidate, I think, and rebuild a higher base and potentially get that next round of fundamental news to give us that next move to higher levels from here.
All right. Thank you, Oliver. I appreciate it very much. Oliver Sloup, Blue Line Futures, joining us this morning. Janet, back to you.